Hi everyone, Ryan here. Today I want to talk about Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. For those of you who are not familiar with Brandon Sanderson, he is I would say, one of the most popular writers in this generation, especially in the fantasy realm. He is beyond popular. He has a lot of fans, and he's very well known. Today I've read his hit book Mistborn. This is my first book into reading Brandon Sanderson. There's been a lot of hype that I've heard online about him and his books, and I wanted to see what it was all about. So a lot of people are very enthralled with Brandon Sanderson, and there's also a good amount of people too who are dismissive of him and his writing. So I wanted to read Mistborn. This is one of his top books that he's written, and I wanted to see what the hype was all about. So overall, I will say I was quite impressed with Mistborn. I was quite happy reading this. I would give it on a scale out of 1 to 10, 10 being the highest. I give it an 8 out of 10. It was a very solid book. I quite enjoyed it. The first 100 pages or so, it was quite slow to me. It was rough to read through. Took me a little bit to get into the world itself. But I think that's common for fantasy books, so I'm not going to give it too much hate for that. But once I got into the book, I really liked it. It was just a fun read overall. Definitely took some different approaches to fantasy from what I've read, from the old school stuff like Lord of the Rings and stuff like that from previous generations. He's definitely gone away from the elves and the dwarves and stuff like that. So that was refreshing. The other thing I want to point out though is this will kind of get more into the spoiler side. So if you haven't read the book, maybe click off if you don't want to have any spoilers. But a criticism of Brandon Sanderson is that his books are sometimes a little predictable. He likes to have twists and turns in them, but they can be pretty predictable from what I've heard of people online, and I can attest to that. I think a big twist in this book was the Lord Ruler being a ferrochemist in addition to being an allomancer. I would say about 300 pages from the end of this book, I had come to that conclusion that the Lord Ruler was a ferrochemist in addition to an allomancer, and that Vin would have to beat him by, at the time I thought it was just pulling off all the metal off of him, his rings and all this stuff. I know that turned out to be a decoy, it was just the bracelets, but I was very close to the idea that it would result in Vin having to pull off some metal off his body in order to defeat him. I had come to that conclusion 300 pages before the book. And I'm not saying that because I'm super smart or any of this stuff, like pat on the back. No, I'm not saying that because of that. That's a common criticism that, his books are a little predictable, and it kind of was. But I don't think that took away from the book at all. Even knowing that, even having figured that out, I still really enjoyed the book. I really enjoyed the ending. I thought it was really good. I really liked the characters. I really liked the idea of a heist in a fantasy realm, and I also liked this crew a lot. I liked all the independent characters. It was quite enjoyable. So this book was really just the testing point for me to see if I wanted to continue reading any Brandon Sanderson books, and for now I've come to the conclusion that I do want to continue reading. I want to finish out the Mistborn trilogy, so I want to read the next 2 books. So those will be coming up soon on the channel, those reviews as I finish those. And once I finish the Mistborn trilogy, I'll decide from there if I want to go further into the Brandon Sanderson Cosmere, and if I want to go pick up Stormlight Archive is extremely popular as well, alongside Mistborn. So once I finish Mistborn, I can decide if I want to go to Stormlight Archive, which is a huge task to take on, because those books are 1,000 pages each, and there's 5 of them, and they just get longer and longer. So I really want to decide if it's worth taking the time if I really enjoy Brandon Sanderson's work before I jump into something like Stormlight Archive. In addition, I want to finishing the Mistborn trilogy will let me know if I want to read any of his other works too. I'm currently interested in reading some of his standalone novels like Elantris, Warbreaker, Trust of the Emerald Sea. So yeah, once I finish the Mistborn trilogy, I'll have a better idea and direction of what I want to do with Brandon Sanderson's work. So he's a very well-known author, and there's a lot of strong opinions about his work from both sides, love and hate. So right now, I gotta say I have him in a pretty good standing after reading Mistborn. I was very, very happy with this book. So I would definitely recommend it for anyone. And yeah, this was great, and I know it just celebrated its 20-year anniversary too. So yeah, it's definitely held up. It's a good read. So thank you, everyone. Have a good one. Bye.